You need to create a vision that you are sharing with those employees. They need to know who is doing what, when, and how. Meaning you want to dial in exactly who is doing what within the business. So think of it like if a fire alarm goes off in your local firehouse, you hope that that firehouse knows exactly who the driver is. They have the navigator. They are directing the water. They know exactly who's going to direct the water onto the building and that individual who's going to run into that building. You do not want to wait until that fire is burning and to decide who is doing all those different tasks. Similarly, within your office, you want to be really clear on who is doing what, how are you measuring them, and how are we communicating how well they're doing in those roles.
Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, the go-to podcast for financial advisors aiming to grow their assets under management, stand out in a crowded market, and retain assets nearly forever. Are you advising high net worth clients who own appreciated capital assets? Do you want to help them sell without losing a quarter, a third, or even more of their hard-earned profits to capital gains taxes? Then this podcast is tailored for you. Each episode brings you the latest strategies and expert advice from leading financial advisors, seasoned attorneys, and experienced CPAs. Learn how to maximize your clients' wealth, minimize their taxes, and supercharge your advisory practice with actionable insights. Join us on Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where you'll gain the knowledge and tools to set yourself apart and achieve unparalleled success in wealth management. Subscribe now and empower your practice for a brighter, more prosperous future. Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets. I'm your host, Roger Silk. Our guest today is Jamie Cornehlsen. Jamie is a lifelong entrepreneur who started his journey way back in the 1970s, which I remember, and I'm sure you remember, Jamie, but I'm not sure all of our listeners remember, selling coffee and donuts. What a way to start. Today, he helps business owners reclaim their freedom through his firm, Fitter Financials. He is an advocate of and implementer of the Entrepreneurial Operating System, also known by its initials EOS. Jamie must know what he's doing because he is a CFA, a Chartered Financial Analyst, and he is a past president of the CFA Society of Colorado. Jamie holds his MBA from the University of Rochester. Thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Great to see you and have the conversation, Roger.
Appreciate your being here. You seem to have covered quite a lot of ground. Most CFAs don't end up as EOS implementers. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever run into another one, and I know many CFAs and a number of EOS people. So
I'm the only individual with both designations. So happy to do
So I'm gonna start from where we are now and then maybe work backwards.
that. Sounds good.
I have it correct that you are an EOS implementer. Is that right?
That is correct. I originally started a mutual fund and was selling that to financial advisors. And I hit the ceiling myself and with running the business, and two large clients, which were financial advisors, picked up their business and moved it, not because they weren't happy with the returns, but we weren't doing a good job processing their clients into the fund. And at that point, I sought out and learned about EOS. And at that point, I implemented EOS for the mutual fund. And then advisors started saying, Jamie, you've really turned the business around. And I started implementing EOS for them. And I really enjoyed picking up the hood of their business and seeing how I can help them make it better.
Super. So I'm going to assume that our audience knows what a mutual fund is, but I'm not going to assume that they know either what the letters EOS means or what Entrepreneurial Operating System means. Could you take a minute or 30 seconds and give the elevator pitch for EOS?
Absolutely. Despite what it sounds like, it is not a software system. It is a complete proven system of simple, practical tools to get what you want from your business. So it's getting a clear vision of where you're going in the business, getting the employees accountable and executing at a higher level, and improving your business so you're creating raving fans from your clients.
What is the ideal business to adopt or implement EOS?
Yeah, typically it is anywhere between 10 and 200 employees. So sometimes a little larger than some of your listeners. With that said, I have a client that I've had for 8 years now, and he started out as an individual just working on his own. And for 5 years, he was on his own. So it works great for one-person offices, but really the sweet spot typically is about a 10-person office.
And what can a typical client? So I think one of the reasons that we're talking is I think many of our audience are independent financial advisors. And as you know, that runs a gamut from literally a one-man shop to firms that may have several $billion under management and dozens of employees. But if we take your, say, sweet spot of a 10-employee firm, and typically, in my experience, I don't know what your experience is, what is that? Who's the decision maker there? And what does he or she look like, demographic?
Yeah. So typically it's someone who was in financial services to begin with. They realized they wanted their own firm. They broke off, feeling like, hey, they weren't having the business life that they wanted. They saw more opportunity. They didn't see the business that they were working with operating well. And as a result, they go off on their own. Obviously, they sometimes work with a wirehouse. They sometimes work with independent broker-dealer, or they just establish their own RIA. All of them I've worked with. In that, they typically find that they're not getting the business. They're not getting what they want from their business as what they had dreamt of, meaning that they've just left a job and created another job for themselves, where in reality, they wanted to create a business, and they're not getting that. So specifically, that means that they're working more hours than they wanted to. They're not getting the profit that they wanted to, and they're just knocking their head against the wall, either because the people aren't quite right and they're not getting the leverage from the employees, and or their process isn't dialed in. So they're having excessive errors, and it's costing them and the business.
So do you specialize in EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System implementation for financial advisors?
I do not. I enjoy seeing across the spectrum of different types of businesses. So I have software businesses. I have construction companies that are 470 employees large. I would say that because of my background, I have about a third of my clients are financial advisors.
I see. And so if somebody's listening and is wondering, well, I wonder if I'm in Jamie's wheelhouse or not, what among financial advisors, I don't know how many software or other kinds of people there are listening. There are probably some, but I think the majority are some connection to the financial industry. What is that business? Okay, so you said it's anywhere from the smallest to 400 and something employees. And is there an AUM number where it starts to make sense or where it doesn't make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say in terms of AUM, where it really begins to make sense is probably at around 50 million in AUM.
Mm-hmm.
I have a handful of clients that are lower than that, but it begins to start making sense at the 50 million where you're adding on the individuals as employees, and you need to create a vision that you are sharing with those employees. They need to know who is doing what, when, and how. Meaning you want to dial in exactly who is doing what within the business. So think of it like if a fire alarm goes off in your local firehouse, you hope that that firehouse knows exactly who the driver is. They have the navigator. They are directing the water. They know exactly who's going to direct the water onto the building and that individual who's going to run into that building. You do not want to wait until that fire is burning and to decide who is doing all those different tasks. Similarly, within your office, you want to be really clear on who is doing what, how are you measuring them, and how are we communicating how well they're doing in those rules, to the point that those individuals should know without having to speak to you how well they are doing. They're the receptionist. They are the person handling the client paperwork. They're the ones doing the trading. They are the ones doing the cash management for your firm. Whatever those tasks are, that there's absolute clarity on what those individuals are accomplishing for the firm.
So you, as an EOS implementer, can you explain what that means, Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think of it really as taking on three roles. That is being the teacher of the tools themselves for EOS. That is being a coach for the business. That is being a facilitator. So let me go through and explain that. At the start of an implementation, I am teaching the team that I'm engaged with how to use the different tools. So what is an accountability chart? How do we fill in not just the names and their roles, but really their responsibilities? So it's me teaching the responsibilities of that. Second, as a facilitator, I walked into a larger practice. It was family run, so it had the father, it was a son, and then some other leadership team members.
Can I just interrupt you
Yeah,
for a second? You walked
please.
into a practice coaching them, or you became a member of
Yeah,
this EOS implementation group?
thanks for clarifying. I was implementing EOS with them.
Okay, so they were your
So
client.
yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
So I was implementing EOS for this client, financial advisor. It was a family-run business, meaning there was the father and then the son. And there was other leadership team members who were also financial advisors, but weren't family members. The son and one of those leadership team members did not like working together. And to the point that it created a real distraction within the leadership team. And quite frankly, the employees were looking at like a ping pong match. They would just watch the son and then the other partner get upset, and they just stood back and watched that play out. So my role is to facilitate and bring them back together to get them on the same page, to create a vision for growing the practice.
Okay, you outlined teacher, you explained that. You outlined facilitator, you explained that. And then I think you said coach was the third role.
That's right. And so as the coach, we outlined the vision of where they wanted to go for the business, whether it's bringing on assets or they want to do financial planning, whatever that goal is. Or quite frankly, it might be as one individual he wanted to get more out of working in the business, so acting as the advisor and working on the business. So I helped coach him on what aspects to do, whereby after a year's time, where he had previously been working 6 days a week within the business, meeting with clients. By the end of that year, I coached him on how to work just 2 times a week on a daily basis, or 2 days a week working with individual clients. And the remaining 3 days a week, he was working on the business, bringing on advisors, him coaching the other advisors on growing the business. So he didn't have to be in that direct role of working with individual clients himself.
Without disclosing any client-specific information, maybe you could give us like a composite of, say, a whole bunch of clients, maybe an idealized situation where a firm or this hypothetical firm brought you in, how you work with them, and what happened over the course of time. Is that something that you could do for us?
Yeah, that would be great. So let's see. This was probably just before the start of COVID, was brought into an advisory practice in Florida. It was owned by a woman, and she had 12 advisors working for her. She had a leadership team, so call it a COO, if you will. She had a marketing individual, she had an office manager, and then she had someone responsible for the investments themselves. And she was conflicted because she was spending a great deal of time in the business, working with her own clients, and feeling like the only growth that she was getting from the practice was through her bringing in clients. She no longer wanted to do that, or at least to the extent that she was doing. So we typically start off with what's called a focus day. There we want to get complete clarity on the structure of the business, meaning that we want to get clear on exactly who are we targeting in terms of our clients, and then what are the roles, what are the responsibilities of everyone in the organization. Oftentimes, financial advisors have grown the business, they add in individuals as they need it, and they lack providing the clarity to those employees on exactly what they're doing, how they're going to be measured, and precisely what's expected them week in and week out. So from day one, we want to create that clarity of what those individuals are doing, and for those individuals to understand and measure themselves on what makes a good employee. When we do that, it relinquishes the need for that owner advisor to feel like they are constantly having to micromanage those employees. Those employees start feeling empowered and helping to grow the business, as opposed to being reliant on that sole advisor who owns the business from having to grow the business themselves and holding it on their shoulders.
So how much of that come out of a focus day? A focus day is a whole day?
Yes. So we typically operate in day-long sessions where it's the leadership team, usually 4 to 8 people that we have in the room to help set the course of the business and to create the structure. And what I find effective is not just working individually, but working with the leadership team, because it creates accountability. Second, it creates greater clarity and buy-in. Rather than if I was just coaching one financial advisor, if I am coaching the leadership team, then I get the entire team to buy into the direction we're going and to build a growth strategy from that.
So if somebody's listening, and they say, hey, I could use some of this help, what would you suggest would be one possible next step?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the next step is to give me a call, and we would book a 90-minute meeting, and it gives me the chance to teach the tools that we use, as well as the EOS process, and for me to give them my time. In other words, it's free for them to understand and learn about the process.
Jamie, we'll do it again, but why don't you give that phone number right now in case anyone's listening and wants to write it down?
Yeah, probably the first best step is to hit my website, and that is www.eosworldwide.com/Jamie, Jamie Cornehlsen, Cornehlsen. That's my website. There's some videos and my contact information. My phone number is 720-427-4239. And
I'll have you give that again at the end, and we'll put it in the show notes. But just in case somebody didn't want to wait, thank you. And so I guess in that 90 minutes, you explained to them in detail, talk to them. Well, give me just a brief overview of what someone could expect if they called you for that 90-minute call.
Yeah. So we want to first understand where they are currently. So what were their goals for the business? Where are they now with process, with the people that they have, what holes, and the goal that they have for 3 years from now, and what do they think is the hurdle for them getting there. Then we roll into a description of the EOS tools, as well as the process that they should expect to go through. A good overview of that can be found in the book Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, which is a book written by the founder of EOS, the author is Gino Wickman.
And that book is Traction. Someone wants to look for it.
That's correct.
And you have no connection to that. You're not selling that. You don't get anything from someone goes and buys that book. Yeah. Okay. We have a few more minutes. If you have a few more minutes, I wanted to get a little bit more, go back in time. So when did you switch from being primarily a financial advisor or running the mutual fund to EOS?
That was in 2011 that I started that path, and then completely exited the financial advising practice.
So your bio says that at one time you were running the CFA Society of Colorado?
Yes, that's correct.
When was that?
That was back in 2008, 2009. Great time to be in the financial services industry.
Very exciting time, if you can call that exciting.
That's right. That's right. Well, I had earlier in my career, I had worked at Bear Stearns, so it.
So were you there when they had their excitement?
No, so I was at Bear Stearns, let's see, 1998, 1999. So knew the environment, but what was unique about Bear Stearns, and I think it talks to some of the hurdles that they had, was they had different fiefdoms, if you will, and as a result, no one was sort of observing the entire entity, if you will, and oversight, obviously, to what was going on.
So which group were you in at Bear in those days?
Yeah, so I was on the sell side, acting as a technology analyst, specifically for networking software.
So in 1998, 1999, so you've been a relatively young guy then, is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so you were actually doing financial analysis like the CFA purportedly prepares you to do.
Yeah, that's right. So, we had buy and sell recommendations on the software companies in my space.
The software was that was the .com bubble, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It was leading up to that.
So if it says .com in the name buy, clearly you're supposed to sell.
Yeah. Not that time. Not that time.
Those were crazy times.
That's for sure.
What was it like running? What did it mean to run the CFA Society? Was that a little bit like herding cats?
No, I mean, what I find is that because CFAs are sort of analytical and get things done, it was actually a dream role.
Oh, really?
Because when you asked for people to get things done and when you were clear on the expectations, it was great working with CFAs because they were so dialed in and got things done. And I think that maybe it's just because of the type of person that typically goes after and accomplishes getting their CFA. But it was a joy working with the organization.
Jamie, is there something that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I think whether you're a business owner that owns a financial services firm or otherwise, there is no manual that you're given when you hang your shingle out and say, okay, I'm starting the business. You're not granted this little angel doesn't come down with, here's the manual of how to run the business. And as a result, this idea that, oh, I can create a business and I'm going to get what I want from that business, meaning either more wealth or I'm going to have more free time or have more time to be with my family, that is not granted. And as a result, creating a plan of action for how to get that is important. And that's some of the great part about sort of what I do and an enjoyment that I get. So whether it's financial advisor getting, they had goals of breaking sort of the top 25 in their market, and they were ranked 55. They had this goal for a 3-year goal. We got there in the course of 2 years, moving from 57th ranked to the top 25. That's the fun stuff that I enjoy.
That's awesome. And what were the key levers that you pulled or helped them pull to make that happen?
Yeah. So the first part is just them getting really focused on creating accountability and creating a weekly meeting with their employees to get dialed in and laser focused on what they were doing to improve the firm. I think that was the critical execution part.
Cool. With all your success, what would you say is currently your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge typically is getting alignment. Within EOS, we talk about getting healthy and smart. And smart is not the intellectual smart. Smart is understanding both whether it's our clients and or how our employees operate and supporting them. And I think that's the biggest difficulty, realizing that employees don't work for us. We're actually trying to support them, the employees, to be their best. And to flip that switch, that mindset of, hey, even though we're employing and providing paycheck to those employees, we're really there to support them and for them to be their best. And that's when we actually achieve more as an organization.
Mm-hmm. I know you already said it, but I'd like to ask you to repeat where our audience can go to learn more about you.
Sure. My website is eosworldwide.com/Jamie, Jamie Cornehlsen, Cornehlsen, or give me a call at 720-427-4239.
Jamie, it's been fascinating and a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Sterling Insights. Stand out and supercharge your assets, where we provide the info you need from successful leading financial advisors, lawyers, and CPAs. Your hosts, Roger and Catherine Silk, invite you to learn more about Sterling Foundation Management by visiting sterlingfoundations.com.